Welcome to the Nordic Mythology podcast. I'm Daniel Farrand, owner of the company Horns of Odin. As always, before we jump to the show, I do have to plug our Patreon. I know I say it every week. You're probably sick of hearing it, but it's literally the lifeline behind the show. So it's how you can listen to the entire back catalogue. So the latest 20 episodes are free to air, but the entire catalogue, so over 260 episodes at this point, are on our Patreon with some incredible guests from world-leading scholars to A-list actors to musicians. We've had an amazing group of people on this podcast over the years. So if you want to go check them out, it starts from £3 a month, literally the price of buying me or Mags a cup of coffee. And you get the smut episodes we do as well, which is the Viking amateur smutty literature that me, Mags, and Claire read. And they are always a lot of fun. Last week's was slightly awkward because it wasn't
bad, was the problem.
It wasn't terrible smut. It was actually quite good smut. So there was a moment halfway through where I realized I was just sat listening to Claire.
We all got real quiet real fast.
I just was sat listening to Claire, who has quite a sensual reading voice as well, reading smut to me and Mags, who were very aware that we were just amongst friends.
But that we were also on camera and mic'd up.
Yeah, listening to potentially actually quite good smut, which was funny in its own right. So if you want to hear all the awkwardness, like I say, it's over on Patreon. If you can't support on there, 5-star rating, positive review wherever you get your podcast. Even just a like, share on Facebook, Instagram, all those little things that take a couple of seconds mean a lot because maybe somebody else is going to find the podcast and help us get into the algorithm and go wherever we need to be. But let's jump into today's show. So we have a recurring guest today for the third. Actually, you know what? I'm going to introduce Max first. Nearly forgot it again. First, I'm joined by my lovely in-house archaeologist and co-host, Max Havgar. Almost.
You did it, Dan.
I know, literally 2 minutes after saying, I won't forget you this week.
I love how you called yourself out.
You know.
That was great.
So that's that lovely voice is Mags Havgar. So our guest today is third time reoccurring guest, always some of my absolute favorite shows. And yeah, listening to the feedback we get, a lot of people love these episodes as well. So the guest today is Julian Post-Melbye, who is an archaeologist at the Museum of Cultural History at the University of Oslo. For the past decade, he has worked with the Glacial Archaeology Program, where they monitor and retrieve prehistoric artifacts from the disappearing ice of southern Norway. He has led the work with cataloguing and curating the growing collection alongside fieldwork in the mountains. Whew.
Do so well, Dan.
I got
this
there
great.
In the end.
Come on.
It's been a long day. Julian, thank you so much for coming back and joining us.
Thank you for having me back. This is the first time I've ever heard our collection be called Glowing. So I think that's...
Glowing, growing, and can't think of another one. But yeah.
Well, I'm always happy to join. It's fun to talk, and we appreciate very much that people all over want to hear us talk about this. So,
yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, yeah, I was convinced that it was about 6 months since we last spoke, but it's actually been 2 years. So that shows the life's been flying by, but also it means that hopefully you have lots of fun things to tell us about the ice.
Yeah, well, certainly that we're always discovering something new every year, and we continue to work on the objects and do different analysis and try to just create more history for us.
There has to be a crazy juxtaposition with the melting of the ice being probably like a negative, and then the positive that comes from that being this amazing history that you find and benefit from it, I guess, in that sense.
Yeah, like I guess we found a silver lining to a very big and continuous issue for many people. And it's a recurring question we get a lot from, especially international media, like how are we profiteering off of climate change? And I think we're pretty much just acting now because it's fallen upon our generation of archaeologists to do it. And for us, it's a bittersweet experience because going to the mountains, going in an expedition, setting up a base camp, carrying food in with horses, and just pretty much recreating a travel that they would have done in the Iron Age just to get to the spot where we're doing field work is a lot of fun. And discovering unknown objects from the past is a lot of fun. But at the same time, I've been doing field work in these mountains now for 15 years, and half the ice is gone.
Holy shit.
I was going to say, have you seen a huge change just in that time?
Yeah, so just like the last 15, 20, like at least for the last 20 years, more than half the ice that has preserved these artifacts on the sites that we monitor have disappeared. So for us doing field work there year after year, it's a very tangible, this change. And this also means that the ice that's been there for the last 8,000 years, since it's not there anymore, we don't see the same landscape today as we did 20 years ago, as they did 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, or just 1,000 years ago in the Viking Age. So we're experiencing a change in how you view the mountains. The Norwegian mountains are going from snow-capped, glacier-covered to gray masses of stone. Like you're losing some of the contrast that can make the mountains interesting to look at.
Yeah.
I mean, the landscape is literally changing under our feet. It's pretty crazy to think about. And I mean, I also just kind of want to point out, since like those unfortunate comments of like, are you profiteering off of climate change? And I'm thinking, like, since we unfortunately haven't been able to really stop the melting of the glaciers, these glaciers would be melting regardless of whether or not there was fieldwork going on there. And if the case was that there wasn't fieldwork going on, then I guess these artifacts wouldn't be found and we wouldn't learn about, the context and just the stuff itself. So
yeah, this is a do it now or do it never, because if we don't act now, 10 years, all the artifacts would be degraded because they're organic artifacts. And we can't do it then. So it's now or never. And many other media that when they ask that kind of question, they're not trying to arrest us for anything. They just want our perspective on the issues. So it's an easy question to kind of start a conversation. So
they know the answers no. They're just wanting.
Yeah, they know the answers no, and they are serving us a very good opportunity to give our speech. Like, why do we do this, and why do we think it's important? So
I guess that's why you have to take advantage of the opportunities, because it is a very rare instance where you can get organic material. It doesn't survive very well in other environments.
No, and we've probably talked about this in previous episodes, but like for every new listeners and all, the ice preserves artifacts in almost unique manner, because in essence nothing degrades because there isn't really any oxygen. And so wood is perfectly preserved, textiles are preserved, feathers are preserved, leather is preserved, shells are preserved, wax, anything really can be preserved. And compared to, for example, bogs that preserve wood well, waterlogged wood is just spongy and soft. You have to spend lots of time on archaeological conservation and add chemicals to stabilize them or something. But these wooden artifacts that are frozen, they are in perfect condition. If we are there and retrieve them, you can literally pick them up and you can just bang them on the rocks and nothing happens. It's like that. But it's just an illustration of that the wood is as good as it was the day it was lost.
It's almost like it's just been paused.
Yeah, it's a freezer. The ice is a gigantic prehistoric freezer.
Are you telling me a glacier is a freezer, Julian?
But that's why, that's why we continuously get funding for the glacial archaeology program, is is not just because it has to be done, but it's something that adds so much unique archaeological and historical material to the European past that it's worthwhile. It's not something. It's not just more of something we know from before. It's a different set of sources to our past.
I don't know if you've answered this before, probably, and I've forgotten it, but I'm going to ask it again. Do we know when these items will have or would have been put in the ice? Would it have been snowy and icy, and then say somebody died, and then they were preserved in the ice, or is it pre-ice and then the ice comes over?
So this is all lost on the ice, pretty much.
Okay.
Because either they've been hunting on the ice, because the reindeer will congregate on the ice on warm summer days to avoid parasitic insects and to cool down. So it's a very the hunters, they would know that the reindeer would go to these specific spots on warm summer days. So it was predictable, and the behavior of the animals was easy to predict, and they could be there and hunt them when they needed to. And then they also use the ice or snow to cross mountain passes, because it's a lot less friction to just walk over snow than to try to get through the big boulder fields or scree or loose mountain rocks or something. So they also use them as shortcut to cross mountain passes. And all these objects then have been lost on the ice, and then they've been lying in the ice since, pretty much.
Mm-hmm. Is there... Can you see like a wear of one side being up? I don't know, how quickly do they get covered in snow and then it's all entombed? Or like, is there a part that's exposed to the air for a while?
No, but as they melt out, there's often a part that is exposed for a while before
until
the
you
whole
guys.
thing. Yeah. So that's then you can see differences. You can see things that have been exposed more to the sun or to freeze thaw cycles as they came out that will degrade them more than the other half, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, in the big picture, this is some of the best preserved wood in all of European prehistory. And comparable preservation conditions would be like caves in the deserts, like Egyptian tombs or something like that, because they're also, it's just completely dry.
Yeah.
So that's, that's the level we're talking about.
And it's just also so fun, like looking at the stuff that you guys find, particularly from a Norwegian context, because I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but like for some reason the soil here in Norway specifically is like a particular kind of acidic, so that just like organic material like wood and leather and textiles usually just isn't preserved as well for as long as it could be in other places in Europe. So like the fact that we find these types of artifacts in Norway, albeit again totally different conditions, but like from a Norwegian archaeological standpoint, it's also like, wait, what? Actual like arrows with like the shaft and everything? What?
Yeah. So we're very lucky then, and then like there's been so much activity, human activity, and then one of the things I said we could talk about today is since they've used pack animals to cross the ice, and they've used horses, to transport all the equipment, and horses will, of course, shit wherever they are. And when they have defecated on the ice, all the horse manure all the
actual shit,
all the actual shit is still on the ice. It's melting out as we work, and can collect it as samples to study the past, and to like be able to pick up individual pieces of shit, feces, whatever you want to call it, that have been lying there for like 1,200 years. You can't really. I don't know if there are many other contexts in the world where you can do that. Like it's like except like the biggest turd ever from York.
Yeah, that's hard to beat, isn't it?
So size-wise, our shit isn't that big, but we've got thousands of them, and we just pick it. Yeah. So
I'm like considering like all the different sensory inputs that you can get from an archaeological excavation, depending on what you're excavating, and also just because I'm a bit of a silly person. Do you smell it?
I
do you
wondered that too.
Can you tell that like there's going to be manure here, or like some manure is melting out? We can tell.
Well, there's always a lot of reindeer dung as well, because
Yeah, sure.
but definitely old ice, prehistoric ice that's been there for thousands of years that is melting has a very, very distinctive smell, because that is the smell of organic materials such as dung and windblown leaves and moss and all that kind of like small debris that has been like encapsulated in the ice and then melts out again. It's not rotten, but it's got a very distinctive smell that you can, like, when you get to a site, you can always, okay, I can smell this melting this here. And or if I open some of the boxes in our museum storeroom, it's like, okay, this is a whiff of the mountain up in here. So
does this is, I guess it's going back a few minutes, but I was curious, does the whiteness of the snow help you find things? Because it got me thinking that in an archaeological sense, usually it's in mud and everything's kind of brown, and it must be quite difficult to deter what's what. Whereas if you got a nice white sheet and there's just a brown horse turd in the middle, does that kind of stand out?
but as you know, the ice that's melted, the snow is bright, but the ice that is preserved stuff is very dark. It's grayish. It's not like a blue clear ice.
Okay.
It's got a lot of air bubbles in it, and but anyway, yeah, it helps. And then of course we get there as a lot of the stuff is like the ice is melted down, so it's just lying on the rocks around it and the rock. Right. So, but definitely things lying on the ice will be very easy to spot while they're still lying on the ice, just because the straight lines, for example, of human artifacts will very often be a harsh contrast to the how an ice mass usually looks without the bone.
Yeah.
So that it does help a little.
with the horses, back to the horses. This is interesting. Are you able to follow the horse droppings in a kind of Viking Age Hansel and Gretel towards like a village?
Yeah, almost. Maybe we've touched upon this in a previous episode, and the things I'm going to tell now are published in an article. So people that want to read the science behind it, they can do that. But
no, we love that.
Yeah, and that is it's one of the publications from a site called the Lendbren Mountain Pass, and there we can see leading towards the ice, the old ice fields that are disappearing now, like a few kilometers away, you can start following cairns made out of rocks as a trail. And then as you get closer, and it's like a couple of 100 meters away from where the ice used to be or is, then we start, because then you get out of you get into a very like barren landscape where there's no small rocks or stuff. There's just like boulders and bedrock and stuff. Then we start finding left like nails for horseshoes or iron. Because here we're so far away that organics aren't preserved, but it's easy to find things because we're working there. So then you can start following the iron artifacts where the cairns have gone now, because there used to be ice there that they walked on. And as you get into the area with ice, you can start following. There's like this 100 meters wide belt of shit crossing the ice up to the mountain pass. And then you get out of the area for preserved organics, you can find horseshoes again. And then you get further away, and then you start finding the cairns again. So yes, we have. You can follow. It's a Hansel and Gretel style, and for anybody who cares about maps, there is a lovely map that shows the spread of horseshoe nails and shit and cairns.
I love that so much. This is such. Oh my god, the only thing I could think of was like the yellow brick road and just like superimposing just a bunch of horse crap.
But we because we have called this in several instances like the Lost Viking Highway. And I think we talked about it last time, maybe that we did follow this trail, and then we followed the cairns. And after we followed the cairns and came closer to like the valleys where it's actually habitable, we found 20 dwellings that we've dated to the Viking Age. I think we talked about that last time, maybe
we
a
did,
bit.
yeah.
And
Were you
then
here then, Max?
No.
Okay.
Before my time.
Yeah, and then we excavated a bit of them just to get the age and their Viking age, and then we could follow the cairns out to the Sognefjord, to Skjolden, towards Kaupanger. So it's like a trade route out from the inland part of the Norwegian interior mountains in southern Norway to the innermost western fjord.
It's a pretty hefty distance.
Yeah, but it is the shortest. It's pretty much the shortest route you could take if you want to move goods.
Oh, sure.
And that, when you get above the tree line in the mountains, you got big flat mountain landscapes. You can just walk and walk and walk. Because if you were trying to follow the valleys, there would be rivers and dense forest and all that kind of stuff that made it hard to travel. So we believe, at least in Norway, a lot of like prehistoric travel, you've drawn up onto the lower mountain parts above the tree line, but not in the alpine area. And they just follow that belt at 1,400 meters above sea level, because there you can really just walk and walk and walk, even with your horses, no problem.
So this path, is it, do you find things pre-Viking Age, or is it that it was used just kind of in that time period, or is it 500 years old? Or
so we know that like the mountain pass where we can actually date the artifacts. That's the great part. We have this path, and then we have lots and lots of organic archaeological artifacts that we can carbon date. And so with surety, we can say that this mountain pass came into use in like the late Roman period. So some like after 200 AD, 250 AD. So we've got like artifacts like snowshoes for horses, for example, so the horses wouldn't sink into the snow.
What does a horseshoe? What does a snowshoe for a horse look like?
It looks like one for a human. It's
just bigger.
Yeah,
just like a tennis racket.
Yeah, or it's completely round, but it's just anyway. But the greater amount of carbon dated artifacts that we have from this site is Viking Age, or at least like Viking Age, early medieval period in Norway. So 850, 1100, there's just a lot of activity in that mountain pass and a lot of horseshit.
Is there any thought what that might be?
Well, anyway, this is a very active period in Norway anyway. And there's a lot of demand for goods, and there's some people were interested in breeding horses. There was a lot of trade in antlers for making combs and furs. And the thing is, with the mountain passes, certain mountain passes can be very good for a few centuries because the ice conditions are favorable for traveling. And then the conditions can change. So the mountain pass that we've been talking about now at Lembren, it went out of use sometime in the medieval period, probably because as you were getting into Little Ice Age, the ice fields were growing other places, so you could easily, there were other places that were better at the time, perhaps, because we know a lot of mountain passes from historic sources in Norway, from, for example, 17th century. That we know which mountain passes they preferred at that time. So we kind of know that the mountain pass at Lemden was already way out of local knowledge. 400 years ago, it was lost already. So it went out of use a couple of hundred years before that, probably. And,
Okay.
Interesting.
yeah, because
So, question to which I should 100% know the answer.
Pretend you're asking it for me.
But since you're here, that Lenderbærskjorten,
yeah,
that shirt or
it's a tunic. Yeah.
depending. Yeah, tunic. Is that found along that pass?
Yes. Yeah. So there's
Ooh.
a Roman era tunic. It's like 300-ish AD.
And we're talking like the whole tunic,
it's a complete,
pretty much.
Yeah, it's
a complete garment.
Yeah, it's a complete garment that you.
How do I? Oh, sorry, I was going to say, how do I spell
I'm on it,
this?
Dan. I'm on it.
Yeah. So that's like the oldest preserved piece of clothing in Norway. That's a complete tunic that you could pretty much put on today if the conservators weren't watching you.
do you think it'd fit you?
Perhaps me.
Okay.
I'm not that big. I wouldn't say it's for a big man. It would either be a small man or a woman. But I think the publications of it talk about it. It talks about it as a male type of piece of clothing. But
I guess you can see the people are just getting bigger. Like, I don't mean as in fat wise. I mean as in just like overall, just the size of humans. Even just to have children. The minute if I see like a 12-year-old and they're just like 6'2", giant. I'm like, how is this happening? What are people feeding you? So even just in like the last few generations, people seem to be getting bigger. So let alone, I guess, from 1,000 years ago, the Romans.
Yeah, but at least, and since this is often a lot of talk about the mentioning the Viking Age, we've probably said it on the podcast before, but we also found, like, for example, a complete mitten from the Viking Age that somebody lost in that mountain pass. It's for your left hand. And
such a pain.
Yeah, and
they had a cold hand for the rest of the journey.
And also we found the shoes in the mountain pass from the Viking Age.
You don't want to lose them. That's the last place you want to lose shoes.
So you will find a lot of personal clothing, a lot of personal objects, and people in the past were good at losing things too. Luckily,
it just happens sometimes, man.
Luckily for us archaeologists, at least, that they lost their stuff. That means that we can get it now.
I'm guessing you can tell that they're lost and not discarded by them probably like not having defects to them, maybe.
Yeah, or some things, I think, like, for example, when we find broken bows. Like that they've used while they've been hunting, like if you broke your bow, you might as well just toss it, kind of thing. And like prehistoric travel also is like they used a lot of shoes. These are simple hide shoes of untanned leather. So they expected them to wear out, and then they just toss them and start another one. So,
especially because they wouldn't probably change stuff as much as we do. Like, we're used to wearing like a couple of different shoes a week, maybe.
Yeah.
But maybe this was the one pair of shoes they had. I don't know. I might just be spitballing here, but.
But anyway, like a lot of the stuff is just lost. It's not thrown away. It's especially in the mountain passes. This is just fully functional equipment that has been lost while traveling, and that happens.
Yeah. Here's the shirt that we were talking about, by the way. I'm struggling finding like a high-res photo for some reason.
Okay.
Here it is. With my supervisor for scale.
Wow. It is a full shirt.
Yeah, it's a tunic. Yeah.
Oh. Cool.
It's a shirt plus. So like it's got a bit more length.
Yeah, I feel like I could get in that.
Yeah, and keep your thighs warm while traveling in the mountains.
I think it might be a bit too bulky for that, Dan.
Yeah, well,
no, I'm just kidding.
I thought Julian was going to say that earlier, but you got it in there. Because I guess you would repair a mitten rather than throw it away. But also, how do you lose shoes on a snowy hike? They
Well,
have to be spare ones, right? They can't be the ones you're wearing.
Either they were the spares or they were the ones that kind of just got worn out there, but definitely they could be the spares.
Mm-hmm.
Because they like long distance travel in the past. I think there's a lot of established sources that talk about how many, like, that you should bring several pairs of shoes, like how many pairs of hide shoes you should bring for a certain travel, for example. Like that they knew that they would wear things out because they were made that way. That was like the point. Because these are unsold. Like this is just, for example, these that are untreated here, like they have the fur on the outside, so you know that is the fur side of the reindeer furs that would be touching the ground or the snow as they were walking.
Oh wow!
So we could,
it's fascinating.
I would just assume that they would make it with the fur turning inward for just heat isolation.
Yeah, but can you imagine walking on just smooth leather on snow and ice?
Well, I guess anybody that's ever had...
You know what? When you put it like that, I would like to retract my statement and say no.
Yeah, I guess anybody that's ever worn like a handmade pair of shoes, or even just a new pair of leather shoes, as a man, like a dress shoes, they are the slippiest thing known to mankind, especially on a well polished. Like,
and you have soles,
especially on like a tiled floor. Just a new pair of because they're just, there's no grip to them. There's nothing. It's just flat leather, and I remember the first time I wore the first ones I had just slipping all over on like a tiled, polished floor. They were impossible.
Yeah.
Like Bambi on the ice.
Yeah, I think a lot of Norwegian men also have those experiences going home from Christmas parties. In the snow and ice.
That might be the alcohol.
Unibush song.
So I think that's but that's a digression again.
You know what's so funny? As soon as you said that, Julian, about like the leather on the ice, I was like, God damn, that was such a dumb thing. Why
but it's like, when you say it out loud, it makes sense. But that's the kind of things you kind of learn through working with these objects over many years, and that we have many examples of the same type of artifact. Like if we had 10 preserved shoes from this one site, then we could say this with a degree of certainty that you couldn't if you just found one and it was like, oh, that was interesting, but who knows? But now we know this was the way to do it then.
Right.
I'm going to back you up, Max, because I would have thought the same. Because would they not have had like a snowshoe? Would that not have been a common issue that they would have then put the foot in a snowshoe? So it wouldn't really matter if it was leather side out.
But the thing is, I know I have the bigger picture in my head, and that is we also find a lot of scraps of woolen textiles. So bigger textile fragments that are on their last leg, like these have been worn before, used a lot. But they are like, you have long scraps of woolen fabric, and then you'd wrap them around your feet as socks, and then you would stick this wrapped foot inside the leather shoe, and then you would like lace it all up. And that was, that was done all the way to like 100 years ago. I think also like in the Second World War, a lot of the Russians, like for ease of production, would make a lot of socks for their soldiers like that. So that's, so we believe that a lot of these scraps were used inside of shoes. And then
that makes sense.
Yeah, and then you kind of like, if you wore things out, you had to adjust or you had to put on. So because we have lots and lots of textile fabrics, like we have lots of like fragments of bigger pieces of textiles, and for people just listening, I'm holding my hands 20 centimeters apart ish, So they have been pieces of clothing, but we don't think they were complete pieces of clothing when they were lost on the ice, but they were used to wrap around the feet to keep warm for the people, or as extra grip or protection for the animals.
I just had a moment where I was like, didn't they just have socks? Was socks not a thing? Have I just realized that? I don't know. I guess I've never really thought about it before.
Yeah.
I've never kind of been faced with that question of just like,
that's such a good point, though,
Did
Dan,
they
because there's so
have-
many things that are like just habit based for us that we're like, wait a minute.
I'm like, I just put my socks on. Socks are a thing. Like, what do you mean? They've always been a thing. Surely that's how people get their feet warm. But you haven't found a sock.
No, we haven't. Unfortunately, not.
So
I
it's
would,
just like,
yeah. So, yeah.
so it's just wrapped around with fabric.
So I'm not saying they didn't have socks because I can't like say that based on what we know that they didn't have them. But a lot of there are a lot of indications, at least, that socks were widespread. Maybe we can put it that way.
So interesting because they can make mittens. So you could have made a sock.
But here's the thing, though. Like, now I'm spiraling into like a complete digression here. But like, also like socks are a bit. I guess like the strips of wool could also, I assume, be gathered from other garments that can no longer be used, and also socks are form-fitting.
Yeah, that's true.
So like you'd have to like actively make that garment instead of just tearing off strips to use. Not to say that they didn't specifically make those types of sock strips. Is that what we're calling feet fabrics?
Yeah. Now the automatic lights went out at the office.
Oh. Very moody.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they had different types of shoes than we had today as well, because all these hide shoes, they're very like they could open almost flat, and then they would like kind of wrap up around your foot and then be laced.
Yeah, so
like a taco.
Yes, like a burrito with laces on it.
Yeah.
So it's just like there's a whole like the system of footwear that we see on these mountain sites is just a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's specialized in a way.
I was thinking of the nightmare of trying to wrap my foot in fabric and then get it into a shoe that would be it would be rolling up. It would be uncomfortable.
Yeah. So perhaps the other places had socks that they used. It's just that's. I'm not going to say I'm a sock historian, so.
Maybe.
No. We'll get Nicole back.
Yeah, Nicole. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, the horses. What can we learn about horses from their poo? And have you found a horse? I feel like you told me last time that we have found like a dead horse. Is that right?
Yeah. So we've found several dead horses.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was probably a bad day for those in the past, less than ideal, losing your pack horse when traveling. But
just a quick side note, have you found many people?
None.
Okay, that I was just interested that I was wondering.
Yeah, no, we haven't. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. But anyway, but the great thing about the horses or the horse shit is that there's like so many different angles where you could like get new information that we otherwise can't get, and we're working on it right now. We haven't published any of it yet, so I'm not going to tell you everything we've learned yet, but I'm going to tell you a little bit anyway.
Ooh, lucky us!
For next time, you can tell us everything.
I'm going to keep the saucy bits to myself. No,
you just want to be invited back, won't you?
But so the thing, like, so one question that is like important for understanding these mountain passes and the objects and why they're there in like the broader picture is when, like, at what time of year and why were they crossing the ice? For example, why did they choose the ice? And like trying to get an answer in archaeology for something that happened 1,000 years ago or more. Did it happen in June? Did it happen in July? Or did it happen in August? Or did it happen in September? It's quite a tricky question. What, like, we don't, our carbon dates aren't like 952 AD June. It's not that type of there. But when we
You can get that from the poop?
we can get that from the poop, because in the horse shit we can see what the horses ate, or what their last, like what they've been eating the previous days before they have crossed the ice, and then you can see what type of grass they've been eating, or other types of fodder or whatever, and you can find the pollen. Like you can see what kind of pollen was in the air at that time.
How can you tell that
Science!
from? How can you tell that from poo?
Yes.
Yeah, because all like the pollen is, what are they called in English? In Norway, we call them pollen. Like, and the individuals.
So like the little pollen seeds.
The individual tiny pollen seeds that you will have to use a very big microscope to see. But then, you know, as we're not going to tell you the results of the pollen today, but that's, you know, then you can see like where the animals have been too in the last couple of days. But anyway, I'm going to tell about, for example, the grasses.
Mm-hmm.
So different types of grasses will be dominant through different stages of the year. So, for example, some of the horse dung that we looked at just earlier this year, we could see that like the types of grass and straw and little fragments of mosses and other things they've just picked up while they've been eating it or been grazing, you know, we can say that this shit is from the autumn. Like, so this is like late August, September.
That's very specific, archaeologically speaking.
Yeah. So that's, you know, so that means like you can say, okay, we know that the horses here definitely were here in the fall.
Mm-hmm.
But we've done other studies as well on they brought food for the horses. Like they brought leaf fodder. So they just cut branches off the trees as they were getting out of the tree line. You know, they would just take some of the branches from the trees that were passing. And
I was about to ask that. How did they feed them?
Yeah. So we know that. And then but on these individual branches that we've cut, we can look at the how the leaves are, how far out the buds on the leaves or the leaves have sprung. So we also know that they've been there in late June, for example. Yeah. So using these like different botanical sources that we find preserved in the ice, you can't find this anywhere else, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
That we can like actually piece together how long, or we're trying to piece together how long the season or the window of use on these sites were for travel on foot. Because we also
so cool.
So that's that's a very specific thing that we've learned, for example, from the horses. But we're doing other things on the horse manure. Like you can see, like more studies of it. We're looking at how they've been stabled, what kind of like other, like you can find the parasites in gut parasites. You can find, for example, have they been eating leftovers? Will you find bile acids from other animals and all that kind of stuff? Is things you can do. But now we've been...
God, I love science so much. This is so cool.
So, but now it's like we've been focusing on, okay, we're trying to establish the window of use, or the season for use as foot travels.
What does that mean? When if you can find out the time of year, what can you learn from that? How can it change the thinking, I guess?
Well, yeah, so it gives us a much broader perspective of what people were willing and able to do. If we try to imagine 15 years ago, before we did all this work on the mountain passes with ice, we didn't have any good evidence in Norway of people in the high mountains except reindeer hunters. Mm-hmm. But in these mountain passes, we find a lot of textile production equipment people have lost. We find toys for children. We find candle boxes and just everything you need for lives. So people have been crossing back and forth all the time. Mm-hmm. Like you're opening a whole new avenue of travel in the mountains, and and in doing so, we're reducing the distances between different parts of the country too. It doesn't seem so far-fetched that you can move a lot of goods and people back and forth when you have so much good archaeological evidence for it right in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of this is like maybe common sense. Yeah, we could probably imagine this, but as like actual science, this is just so much more than we had 15 years ago. And we also like believe all of this isn't long distance travel. A lot of this is getting from their valley farms and to their summer farms that are on the other side of the mountain range, for example, where they would keep their animals in the summer for grazing and pastures. So we also find like dairy related objects. So you can like infer that they also had brought their goats along, even though we haven't found the goats themselves, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like we're able to populate the Alpine mountains in Norway with like farmers and traders and craftsmen and children. You know, essentially it's just society and family. It's not some kind of strange, outfield, scary place where only like the adventurous hunter would be. It's part of the everyday landscape of the Viking societies of those areas. I think that's a very important piece. You know, it's like once you've opened that box and people have accepted it, it's hard to imagine that we didn't accept it before.
I think not finding any bodies, like human bodies, is really fascinating because I guess it shows a level of competence to be able to traverse very difficult climates successfully. I mean, if you go up, I know Everest isn't a 1-for-1 kind of likeness because it's very difficult, but we have very different equipment now.
Yeah.
But if you went up Everest, it's littered with humans who have fallen foul to the environments, and they've got the best equipment possible. So the fact that they can get across this very difficult landscape without leaving a lot of any bodies that you found, but at least like a lot, is really interesting. I would have thought you'd have found a bunch.
No, they seem very competent, like apart from losing a bit of clothing, but that's, you know, I lost a pair of pants up there once. Like, how did I do that? You know,
how did you do that? Is that's for the smut episode? Is that you? And that's the.
But it was not the pair of pants I was wearing. I just gonna.
Just want to clarify.
That would have been a skill.
Yeah, but they were highly like people died in the Norwegian mountains this year.
Yeah,
like people just died from hypothermia in the summer of people that were hiking in the mountains that had, you would think, enough equipment, you know, but you know the mountain is a fickle place. You know, it's summertime, but it can be snowing and freezing temperatures and high winds all of a sudden.
I think people also have an inflated sense of self kind of ability, because I would guess that 1,000 years ago, people looking at going on that journey into the mountain would be very kind of equipped. They'd think about it. It would be thought about, and you would take precautions to make sure you had all your equipment with you, that you checked and took enough food. Whereas you see people today that think that they can just walk up Mount Snowdon in Wales, or, you know, Ben Nevis in Scotland, and they can just go up in Crocs because you're allowed to, because it's a national trail. It's all kind of, you just can turn up and walk it. They think that you could just do it without any equipment, when really you need to take things with you, you need to take precautions, and you need to be safe. But there's this kind of feeling that I think some people have, that they don't have to because you just can, and nothing bad can happen today. Maybe people thought like that back then as well. I don't know, but I would guess probably less likely.
Less likely, and they were, you know, I don't know, this was their normal everyday landscape. You know, this wasn't something they were just doing
for shits and giggles.
Yeah, it wasn't their holiday. It was their normal life, you know. So they probably were,
in order to get from A to B.
Yeah, they would probably like, okay, we're going there this week, but we'll just we'll stay put until the storm's over because we can go tomorrow as well.
Mm-hmm.
And they were
Mm-hmm.
like, this is just pure speculation, of course, but at least they seemed competent. And we find a lot of dead horses. We found their dogs with the collars still on that haven't survived the trip.
Oh, wow.
So animals that they obviously cared for. For example, this dog that we found, the complete skeleton of, we see that it's had bones broken that have healed, and it's been like
They took care of
it's
it.
a pet that they've taken care of, and
That's why they had no socks.
yeah.
Because of the dogs. Dogs
Yeah.
love socks.
But so
But the fact that
they were willing and
that they're-
able. They were very able to do what they were good at. I think like that's some of the thing we're trying to always like impress upon people is like we find it very exciting today, or like it's for us it's an expedition now. We've got like Gore-Tex clothing for the windy and rainy days and down jackets for the cold days. We've got what modern technology can give us.
And it's still cold.
Yes.
It's still cold and miserable sometimes.
Yeah.
But what I think is really interesting about like, okay, I do not mean to lower like the level of competence that we're talking about at all, because I mean that seems to be, it speaks for itself to a certain extent. But what I think is also interesting is that because of the fact that there are no human remains found so far, that it gives an indication, I suppose, that if the case were to happen that someone died, for whatever reason, the body wasn't left behind.
Yeah, okay.
Because
That's
they've probably gone to great lengths to recover them if that was the case.
yeah, that's also possible.
But
yeah.
it could be like people fall down crevasses and glaciers and can't be retrieved. So like there's obviously a chance.
Mhm.
And
Sure.
that's like the same reason, or for example, Ötzi, the Iceman from the Stone Age on the border of the Austrian and Italian Alps, is an example that this can happen. People can die on the ice and be preserved and then be found.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
it happens.
I'll just, I guess, getting wandering off as well. Just
Yeah.
people do kind of get lost sometimes. If the weather turns, anybody that's been in a whiteout, I was in one in Canada, and it is a incredibly disorientating situation to be in. So you can easily get kind of lost and spun around. So just the fact that there's not been any bodies, I think it's really cool.
Yeah, they were experts probably in this area. But this kind of ties into like a question you had for me a couple of weeks ago. Like you sent me a picture and asked if it was an AI fake.
I did, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, quick, before we go into that, do you want to ask what does a Viking age dog collar look like?
Oh, okay. Like for people really interested in that, there are dog collars in the Osebatic ship burial, if I remember correctly.
I'm pretty sure.
Or if they're on the tapestries or something like that. But the just a disclaimer: the dog collar we found was from the medieval period, so not quite Viking age. But anyway, that's like a withy binding. So it's like twisted wood branches.
Oh wow!
Braided and then locked around. So and then there was also a leash still on the collar.
Oh wow! Okay.
So the leash was still on the collar. So that was.
I don't know why I figured that everyone in the Viking age or the medieval period would have had a well-trained dog that would have just followed them.
Yeah, I know. I was surprised.
I didn't think of leashes.
Yeah, no, I was surprised. Like this is one of those weird like things for me too. It's like there's a leash on it. We're in the middle of the mountains. Yeah. But like these sites are mixed travel and hunting. So the dog can have been there like on a hunting trip, and then you want to keep it. Perhaps they've been like trying not to scare the reindeer with it or something. You don't really use dogs for reindeer hunting, so forget that.
Yeah.
But anyway, like perhaps if you had like 500 goats in a massive, like 500, that was a bit much. 50 goats. Say we were traveling across the mountains with 50 goats. Perhaps at certain points you didn't want the dog just running around. You would like, okay, we're crossing the ice. We want all the goats to be here and we want the dog to be here. So we tie up the dog on a leash. and then something happened to the dog.
Well, yeah, Rocco's a really well-behaved dog. He can be off his lead, but there are sometimes when I'm out hiking that I'm near a cliff edge or I'm near something or boggy ground. I'm like, he just doesn't understand not to run around right now. So he's going to go on his lead, not because he's naughty, because he just doesn't kind of have the force. Yeah, he doesn't have the foresight and wherewithal to kind of read the environment and not go gun-ho head first as fast as he can towards something until he can see it right in front of him.
Yeah.
But yeah, you meant so this. I sent you a post because I still am on a vengeance to try and clear up some of the AI out there, and this is one that I'd seen a few times, and I was like, this must be AI bullshit. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it was a picture of what looks like a pretty intact sword. And he said,
perfectly preserved.
In the icy heights of Norway's upland county, reindeer hunters made a remarkable discovery, a well-preserved Viking sword laying in the snow. This weapon, dating back over 1,100 years, had remained hidden at high altitude, shielded from the elements by cold, dry climates. Its exceptional state of preservation gives archaeologists a rare glimpse into Viking craftsmanship and survival in harsh environments. And I was like, no, that looks too good. That can't be real. But I know who to ask. So I sent you the post and the picture. I was like, is this real or is it bullshit? And what did you say, Julian?
It's real. And that picture is, it's a reindeer hunter just pointing a Viking sword out in the air, But yeah, that is a real find. That's found along one of these high mountain trails that we've been talking to that crosses near some of the sites I work on, and is part of these documented, like these trails that we've been documenting through the high mountains. So that is a perfectly preserved sword.
Mm-hmm.
It was just sticking out from between a couple of rocks,
Excalibur.
Yeah.
That, like, of course, that as any sensible, curious person would do, the hunter just pulled it out.
Yeah, I would as well. I'm even speaking to so many archaeologists on here who would be like, "Don't just pull it out. Get somebody to come and look at it." I still would be like, "Wow, this is really cool. Let me take a picture of this."
Yeah, I don't know if he had enough imagination to even think that it could be a Viking Age sword, like just sticking out of the ground.
Like what? When do you find a perfectly preserved Viking Age sword just sticking out of some random rocks? How often does that happen?
Yeah, and also the pointy end was sticking up, and the handle was down. So
so he was doing
even more to the point.
Yeah. So anyway, this is like, and after he found it, he did everything right. He contacted the county archaeologists. They got the sword. They went up with him to the same site and looked over the area, checked it out with metal detectors to see if there was anything more. But like within this, like a certain area here, there was no other archaeological artifacts. Like this is just like a one-off piece of equipment that somebody has lost. Does not seem like a grave. It just seems like somebody with a Viking Age sword has been traveling across the high mountains. And what is like, there's a lot of rocks, there's a lot of snow, you can lose stuff here. And if you've lost it, it can be very hard to find it again. If you even though you knew you lost it like 50 meters back, like it must be there. It's hard, it's just a very broken, like there's just so many cracks and crevices and rocks where things can slip under and disappear. So this was a very, it's a real find, it's like you see a lot of AI fakes and some of these, but that one's a real one.
How do you lose a sword though? Like that's a big thing, and I would assume it would be in some sort of sheath, which I guess there wasn't a sheath found with it. So that means, was he just like playing with the sword? Did have it out like just holding it and dropped it? Or
I don't know.
How does that happen? How does one only lose a sword, nothing else?
No, yeah, it's a very good question. I can speculate, of course, but people are probably going to be curious now anyway. But I can just also just say before somebody starts asking you in the comments or something that the sword is from the like closer to the middle of the Viking Age, and it was 93 centimeters long. Somebody's probably going to ask that.
Yeah. Okay.
But
which is it's a good length. That's kind of hard to miss.
Yeah, and it's it's like what is it like 1.3 kilos of metal or something.
You'd know if you were walking through the ice and then suddenly
clank
that wasn't there. Yeah, you would feel like you'd be like, well, I mean, it's a little bit easier now. I'm lighter.
Yeah, but then you get to the thing that they also use horses and sleds,
okay.
And then when something falls off the sled, it's not necessarily easy. This could be a bigger part of a bigger package train or something like this, because I've like on the other mountain. Now we're talking about the mountains that are in the Reinheimen National Park for people that are known in Norway. And I've done an excavation further north at Dovrefjell, there where like there was this metal detectorist that found like a piece of a shield, and they called us in and like a few years, and then we did a survey of the area with metal detectors and found several more pieces of equipment. So that was also like here, this was obviously something that had gone to shit in a winter travel, because there was a lot of ice equipment for horses. It's completely my brain just froze up.
Nice pun.
Not crampons, but
like some sort of like
spikes.
Yeah,
like they had like horses. They had spikes for the horses. And there were other like pieces of winter equipment there, and all this was just smeared out over like 100 meters. There were like several shield bosses and other parts of shields, and there were like parts of crates and locks and goldsmithing tools and other horses. And like there was just all this stuff, and it was just like you could just imagine that somebody was riding across the mountain during the winter with a sled, and then you just lost a few of these chests of equipment off the sleds.
Because that could be stuff to take to trade and sell.
And this is
the apprentice got whoever didn't tie that down properly.
But the fun thing in here is those shields. This is like 13th century, but. We did a metallurgical analysis of them. They are made in Denmark. This is the middle of the Norwegian medieval civil war. And we know that they also had Danish mercenaries on certain sides of that conflict.
Oh, shit.
So here we got the story of like the Danish mercenaries losing their equipment in the Norwegian mountains.
Well, they're not used to mountains, are they?
There's nothing more fun for us Norwegians or Swedes talking shit about Danish people getting lost in mountains. That's an age-old tradition already.
Oh no! Did the Danes not know how to deal with the weather?
It's nice and flat, isn't it, for them?
Yeah, that's.
Well, unlucky. I
love
guess.
that a lot.
Yeah. All right. Elin, is there anything else that we need to learn? Any big things that we've missed?
This is the third episode in, and I haven't listened back to the old one, so who knows what I've said before. but we've been talking about a little bit about the Mountain Viking Pass and like how we know what we know. But people that would like want to see these things right now, they're on exhibition at the Norwegian Mountain Center in Lom.
Nice.
But in 2 years, 2.5 years, whatever, we're moving a lot of these things to the Museum of the Viking Age in Oslo. the new one that we're building right now.
Mm-hmm.
So then all these stories that we've been talking about like especially like the traversing the mountains in the Viking Age, there will be an exhibition. One of the exhibition rooms will be about that.
Oh,
That's so cool.
And about the
Yeah.
trade of goods through the mountains of Norway. So, for example, if you want to see the horse shit yourself,
I want to see it.
yeah, you can go there and see it when it opens. And if you want to see the mitten that we've been talking about, and if you, we haven't mentioned it, but like we have a walking stick with runes on it from the Viking Age as well, from the same site. So we know that it was
That's pretty
Ivar
cool.
who lost his walking stick. Like,
Oh, poor Ivar.
so definitely, that's just a plug for our upcoming museum opening here in Oslo in 2-3 years.
I can't
As
wait.
if I wasn't excited about that to begin with.
Yeah, like you come for the ships, but you stay looking at the horse shit. That's
That's it. we need to somehow like swindle our way onto some sort of early opening list, Max. One way or another, we need to know the right person or speak to somebody in the right department.
I make no promises, but I am literally employed there, so we need maybe I'll be able to.
Yeah, if you just knew somebody who was in charge of part of the exhibitions.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Do you know someone you know?
We need to still be doing the podcast in 2 to 3 years and just be in the right place so we can look at all this cool stuff.
Yeah.
Actually,
but that we could always fix a recording here in the storeroom of the museum where you can look at it before the museum opens.
Oh, well, that would be
That wouldn't be amazing. That wouldn't be very hard to swing at all. That would
be great. We
wouldn't even need to borrow equipment, Julian. We can bring one.
Yeah, okay, absolutely. Also, I guess on a quick side note before we wrap up, we do need to get somebody on from the new museum who's overseeing it, maybe, or somebody who, I don't know if you can recommend anyone.
Dan,
Julian?
we've already, but if Julian has any ideas, but I've already pitched a couple of names to you.
Yeah, someone.
We don't need to do that now, but we can message because I just work with some of the rooms, but there are definitely a lot of interesting people that there are 4 people that are working on the overarching part of the whole museum of the archaeologists. And I'm pretty sure one of them would be more than willing to spend a bit of time talking about it.
That would be amazing, just to kind of get everyone excited about what's to come, because it feels like it's been going on for ages.
Well, it has. It has.
Yeah.
When
you are correct, Dan.
when did they start? Was it 3-4 years ago?
The existing museum closed in the end of 2019.
Oh, that's my timeline is all over the place. I was 3 years ago, definitely.
No. I remember when they had the architectural contest, like the unveiling of the winner. I was at work there then. I worked as a guide at that time, and I was at that unveiling, and that was in 2017.
15.
Wow.
15.
Yeah,
yep.
2015. I was also there. I was at the unveiling. It just came in from excavation, so I was there in my dirty excavation clothes.
Hey!
Oh, nice.
Yeah, because that's the fun thing is working in an archaeological museum. You half the people are there in suits, and then some people are just lots of people in normal clothing, and then you got somebody just fell in from an excavation, and then they got muddy boots,
no pants.
Missing pants. Yeah. And
the ice.
And also the sword that we just were talking about would also be, I know it's going on exhibition there in the so-called Wall of Swords.
Oh yeah, I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, have you heard about the Wall of Swords?
I have heard about it from, I think maybe the person you were kind of hinting towards is maybe the same person that I am thinking about. Perhaps.
Yeah, so you should get somebody on.
Said.
Yeah, you should get somebody on to talk about the Wall of Swords at the new museum.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. We will stop alluding, and we will talk off air and organize that. All right, let's wrap this up, and then Julian, you can come back in. Hopefully not 2 years, but in some time in the future, and tell us what else we've learned from the horse poo when you have those findings that are released, that are published.
Yeah, all right. And we haven't even talked about all the DNA stuff we've been doing. So yeah.
Oh shit!
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
another time.
So we're an hour and 14 in at this point.
Okay.
And with it being a Tuesday evening, I don't want to keep everyone too long. So yeah, let's book another one in maybe in 6 months, something like that, or a few months, maybe just after Christmas, and we'll get into the DNA stuff.
Yeah.
That sounds
Yeah, we can discuss it.
Yeah, perfect.
And we'd love to tell you about it. That's the easy answer.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome.
Maybe even sooner. Maybe we'll get you in before Christmas then, and we'll do it as soon as we can. But okay, Julian, where can people, I guess, find you? Do you have a public profile, or is it all through Secrets of the Ice?
Yeah, you just follow us on Secrets of the Ice on Facebook or Instagram. We publish a lot of our fieldwork and ongoing research, and everything is there. So definitely urge people to check it out.
Perfect. Mags, where can people find you?
You can find me at Archeomags on Instagram, Archeo with a K.
And for me, it's Daniel_Firen1, Horns of Odin for the business, Nordic Mythology podcast across the board. Give us a like, share on Facebook, YouTube, all those things. And then, Julian, if you've got an extra 10, 15 minutes, we'll just let people ask you some quick questions and then let you go home. Get out of the office.